What is the difference between awareness and consciousness, and what is consciousness? Try this right now. You're aware of me speaking to you. You're conscious that you understand the meaning of my words. But feel your feet on the floor. It wasn't that you weren't aware of it. You weren't unaware of your feet on the floor, but you weren't conscious of it until I brought it to your attention. This shift from implicit sensing to explicit noticing, it demonstrates the difference. Awareness never left, it's just your consciousness wasn't directed there yet. I'll show you how I can direct your consciousness to what's in your awareness right now. Your eyes aren't perfectly relaxed watching the screen. You're probably scrunched up a little bit like that, not perfectly relaxed. It takes some time to relax your eyes. That was in your awareness, but now you're conscious of it. You're probably shallow chest breathing. Just breathing from here. Try deep belly breathing. It was in your awareness, but now you're conscious of it. Your lower back is probably arched, and it's not straight. It was curving out. Try straightening it. Your chin is most probably tucked down a little bit, watching on your phone, watching on the screen, and your neck protruding a little bit from center. Try correcting it and bringing your neck back and your chin up. It's always best to use your laptop, use your phone in that position. Now you're conscious of it right now. All this information, plus so much more, is constantly in your awareness, but you're not conscious of it until you decide to become conscious of it. And here's another of a slightly different example. You're aware that you're going to die one day, right? Yes or no? Yes. This fact is in your awareness now. You're conscious of it when it wasn't before. It was a fact you knew that was in your subconscious, and I pushed it into your conscious mind for you. To awareness, it means nothing. Consciousness, to you consciously, what does that mean? Now there is meaning. So welcome to my new series on consciousness. This is part 1. I have many questions that I am attempting to answer, building a model to fit reality, not trying to get reality to fit into my model. So this model will update and evolve as I learn more. Discovering what consciousness really is and defining it, explaining it, is more difficult than I initially thought. It's something we live with every day, but so very, very few people have any real inclination of what it actually is. So I want to really be able to define the difference between awareness and consciousness. How are they different? How many stages are there exactly of awareness to consciousness? How many stages and layers of consciousness? I've already discovered multiple, but I'm sure there are more beyond where I'm at currently. Is consciousness axiomatic, like an objectivism? Is it a metaphysical axiom, or is it an epistemological axiom? Is it an axiom at all? What does that mean? Ontological questions such as what is consciousness? Where is it? And then developmental and emergent theories on consciousness, the ontogeny. How does it develop? Does it emerge? Is it fundamental, like a panpsychism philosophical view on reality, that everything is consciousness? How does that actually work? How can we figure this stuff out? Functional. What does consciousness do? Teleological. Why does it exist? What is the purpose of consciousness? Does it have a purpose? How does it all work? The different layers of it. How do you know if you're conscious? So my model and theory of consciousness, I'm using introspective phenomenology to examine the workings of consciousness, my own consciousness, whilst integrating perception and reason to form a coherent, objective theory on what consciousness descriptively is and how it comes to be as an emergent feature of ego and awareness. So I state that's what my model, I'm working with the parameters so far, but if new information comes into my consciousness that updates or corrects or presents any problems, and I shift my model to best align with what the reality is showing me. So introspective phenomenology is essentially the disciplined study of first-person lived experience, what it's like to perceive, feel, think, or be aware from the inside, not trying to define consciousness from the outside in, though there is some of that, but it's primarily based with what is it like to be from the inside out. And I'm comparing empirical data of other people I've engaged with, not just purely my consciousness, but everyone I can see and interact with, their consciousness, and also the consciousness, the experiences of animals, how they learn and develop. That is crucial, and also thinking about AI as well, and using as much data as I can and putting it into one integrated model. So this video is primarily about the difference between awareness and consciousness, trying to define awareness and define consciousness. So in my model, awareness is a base layer. One of the future videos will go into how it's formed, and then even that breaks down into pre-stages of awareness, stages before awareness really. But to keep it simple right now, awareness and consciousness. So awareness is the fundamental receptive field of experience, the unchosen, determined and necessary capacity to register existence. It cannot be directed, it simply receives. It's the organism's global sensitivity to being, an unmoving backdrop that passively detects stimuli, sensations, and states. I'm going to add in more clarification right now for people who may be beginning to this. That higher level principle explanation just then might not make sense without enough examples. So you have a body, you live inside a body, and it's got heaps of different sensations that is constantly in your awareness. The temperature in the room, if there is a fan or the wind blowing on your skin, the sounds that you hear in the background, the whirring of the fridge, the whirring of the air conditioner, the construction site outside, people walking in the hall of the apartment block, doors slamming outside, birds chirping. I can see a plane flying in the sky. Cranes are turning, there's cars driving on the road, there's trees that are swaying aside. I can keep going on and on. There's so much in my awareness. I'm sitting in a seat. There's pressure on my butt. My back is leaning against the chair. I've got internal thoughts and emotional states happening on the inside as well. There is so much in my awareness, but I can only be conscious of so much at a time. So awareness is that fundamental receptive field of experience. Take away all my senses. In this body, any kind of body, you can't experience any kind of awareness, let alone consciousness. You need to have some kind of sensation. So awareness is non-volitional, it's automatic, it's pre-egoic. It exists in all living things capable of sensation. It's non-intentional, cannot be turned off except in unconsciousness or death. So getting knocked out, going to sleep, anesthesia, death, coma. It provides raw experiential data, like qualia, subjective experience that can't be reduced to physical explanations. Feelings, sense impressions. It's the substrate upon which consciousness later develops. Awareness is necessary for consciousness to develop. And consciousness is awareness of awareness, the active, volitional, directed use of awareness by an ego to recognize the relationship between self and world. It is the agentic organization of awareness into focus, meaning, and action. Without an ego, you have no consciousness. It cannot be done. Consciousness is that relational state between ego and everything else. Ego, it is the recognition of the ego's awareness of particular things. There's so many different details, points of data I referenced earlier, and so much more. Without an ego, there is no consciousness. You are your ego. If you'd watched my prior series about what is the ego, I go into great depth and detail explaining what the ego is. And this series on consciousness is just going to expand on that even further. What your ego is and how your consciousness arises, emerges from your ego. It is crucial, necessary, must come from an ego. No ego, no consciousness. Consciousness is volitional. It can be directed by free will. It is emergent. It develops through action, desire, feedback, and learning. It requires an egoic self, the I, that perceives, judges, and acts. Without an I am conscious, there is no I am conscious. The I is the ego. It's dependent on awareness, but not reducible to it. So that is some more complex theories to understand the reducibility and irreducibility of consciousness, awareness, qualia. Save that for later. It's not necessary to understand this basic level. Consciousness has degrees and quality, huge different degrees. From dim reactive consciousness, a child or an animal, to full reflective consciousness for an adult, or some adults. And then my current model is that there is consciousness and then metaconsciousness, and these have huge degrees, but I have an inclination that the more I study this, they're actually not going to be degrees on one scale of just consciousness. It'll be a particular range of degrees, a gradient, in a stage, consciousness, and then it jumps to a different stage, metaconsciousness, which perhaps could jump to an even higher stage, and then there is a range of consciousness inside those degrees. So even the lowest level metaconsciousness is higher than the highest consciousness, just standard consciousness. To be explained forthcoming. Consciousness is anchored in agency. To be conscious is to be able to choose and act. If there's no free will to control consciousness, there is no consciousness. Consciousness, in my model, is an epistemic axiom, epistemological. To know anything, you must be conscious. An unconscious mind cannot know anything or put forth any argument. It can only emulate or imitate, like say an AI, for example. It doesn't know anything. It's only rearranging symbols, which it's been programmed to have a particular meaning, but it has no semantic understanding. It's symbolic transformation, rearrangement. It's an aping, which is, a not so fancy way of saying imitation. To know anything, to put forth any valid arguments, there must be consciousness. That's why consciousness is an axiom in my epistemological philosophy. You have to have that to know anything. And free will, you have to have the ability to question to know anything. Without the ability to question, to move your mind anywhere, you're a slave and you know nothing. I'll make a full video about determinism at some point in the future. Awareness is automatic, physiological, sensory registration. I'll say that again, because that's one of my favorite definitions of awareness so far. It is automatic, physiological, sensory registration. Consciousness is deliberate, volitional focusing of awareness upon particular content. So you'll notice in my exposition here, I'm going to be saying awareness is this, consciousness is this. Awareness is this, consciousness is this. So comparing to help you understand and really see the distinctions here. So I'll say that line again. Consciousness is deliberate, volitional focusing of awareness upon particular content. Awareness is bodily. Consciousness is egoic. Consciousness is the psychological process by which an ego being an integrated, value-orientated self-system, identifies and relates the content of its automatic physical awareness to its point of reference of being itself. I know some of this can get quite complicated and they can be long worded sentences. To get the most out of this video, it's highly recommended to watch it again and again. Maybe even watch it straight away again after the first time, finishing it, and then again in 3 months, in 6 months, a year, because there's so much content packed into this video and in this series of consciousness. Consciousness is conceptual recognition of perceptual stimuli. Awareness of awareness. That's what consciousness is. It's not just awareness, it's awareness of awareness. And then you could say, later on I talk about it, meta-consciousness is awareness of your awareness of being aware. So just back to standard consciousness, awareness of other sensory awareness. I'm aware that my skin feels warm. It's too warm right now. I actually need to turn the air conditioner down a little bit because I'm getting too hot. I'm speaking, I'm producing heat inside my body. Okay, air conditioner is turned down. Good to keep going. Aware that someone is aware of something. That's what consciousness is. Awareness equals undirected sensory perception. Pre-relational recognition, seeing without knowing. So when I look out the window here, I'm on the 12th floor of an apartment building in Kuala Lumpur. I can see trees, a lake, houses, apartment blocks. I can't turn my, oh, I can do that. It's a dirty window, but hopefully you can still see outside. There's a lot to see. But awareness doesn't direct what I see. I look out the window and I just see. I don't know anything. It's only when consciousness becomes aware of that awareness, goes, oh, I can move my eyes, free will, I can move my eyes, I can look at that building, I can look at that bird and that tree over there. Awareness is just seeing without knowing. And keep going back and relate this to being a baby. Remember what it was like to be a baby. This is how you can figure this stuff out and discover the objectivity and the truth of what I'm saying here. Think about it when you're a child. Keep on using that comparison, because that's a fact. We all grew up from children. We didn't magically appear here like this. We were born as babies and were developed and became adults. Consciousness equals awareness of the relationship between self and content. I know that I see. I'm seeing out the window. I'm looking at the camera. And I know it's me seeing. I can recognize myself in the mirror. I see myself in the mirror and I know that's me. Whereas awareness is just something. Existence exists. That's it. I don't know what it is, but it exists. That's it. Awareness is registration of physical facts without an awareness of an egoic I who is registering. Consciousness is self-referential and self-directing. So you can direct where your awareness goes. When you hear, let's bring it back to sight. I can close my eyes, I can stop my seeing, but my hearing, I can't stop that. I mean, I could put your fingers in your ears and you can limit your hearing, but I can still hear that I'm talking. It's this open field. And if I'm in a bar or a crowded restaurant or room and I'm trying to pick out, well, just the aware stage, you just hear all these noises and then you focus in with your consciousness and you can hear conversations. You can hear your friends and family speaking. Whereas awareness can't do that. That's what consciousness does. Awareness just hears all the sounds. But consciousness can make sense out of the noise. It's a good way to put it. Examples of awareness: hungry, thirsty, woman, man, cat, dog, hot, cold, bright, dark, scared, happy. Whereas examples of consciousness is, I'm hungry and I want to eat a lamb chop. Not just hungry like a baby, That's all it feels. It feels this sensation of hunger. It cries. It wants food, but it doesn't understand it at that stage of development yet. Thirsty, I want kombucha. Oh, talking about kombucha makes me want kombucha. I recognize, or I identify, which is a stage above recognition. That's my mum. That's my dad. That's my dog Chuckles. Awareness is non-conceptual. It's passive receptivity to existence. It's a capacity to register what is, automatically and without evaluation. Consciousness is conceptual, active self-awareness, the capacity to direct, integrate, evaluate, and act upon awareness. What do I want to be aware of or conscious of right now? Oh, the feeling of my stomach, the muscles in the back of my neck, the hair on the inside of my armpits. That was all within my awareness, but it's only until I volitionally decided to direct my focus, my consciousness, my point of attention, or some people might call that your spirit. You can move it to different points of your awareness. You have this whole field of awareness where your consciousness is within and can move around in it. Awareness is stimuli and object detection within a sensory field without the subject's awareness of the object's relation to self. Consciousness is object detection in relation to the subject detecting objects. Oh, this chair, I feel the sensation of it on my butt because I'm sitting on it. I can understand conceptually this is a chair. I have a conceptual understanding of me as an ego, an identity with a history, a continuity, memories. Oh, I understand what chairs are. I know what it means to sit on a chair, why I sit on a chair, what the purpose of it is. It's not just a baby sitting on a chair. There's awareness. Can't even say I'm sitting yet. There's just awareness. I'm existing here, leaning with... Well, there's no words yet for a baby at that point. Words are conceptual. It's just, if we try to use words to describe the non-conceptual state, it's just sitting. That's it. There's no I'm sitting on a chair, just sitting. That's it. It takes time to develop these concepts and consciousness. It takes a great deal of time, really. Awareness is a general field created by a body of sensory apparatuses perceiving whatever it's in contact with. Awareness is the body's recognition of information. Consciousness is the ego mind's recognition of the body's awareness. Awareness comes without free will effort. I don't have to put any effort in to feel the temperature or to look out the room and see. It just happens. I don't need to do anything. But to focus, there's lots of planes here that keep flying past. To focus on anything in particular, formation of the cloud, the microphone here, that takes an act of effort, that takes free will, consciousness to direct it and move to different locations or points within your awareness. Awareness is automatic. Consciousness must be willfully directed and maintained with effort in order to focus on particular information. When no will or effort is exerted, the direction of one's conscious mind drifts on childish whim and prehistoric sensations. It can revert back to the infant stage, living in daily life, wondering if there is such a thing as objective morality, if capitalism is actually a better system than communism, when people don't actually take the time to understand these things and to focus on them consciously. They just revert to prehistoric sensations, just of the infant stage. I just want to feel pleasure. I want food. I want mummy's cuddles. I want to be warm. I don't want to have a dirty nappy. And that's what adults do all the time. They revert back to this infantile stage when they come across pertinent questions that they don't want to put in the effort to understand. So they evade their consciousness and go back to a pre-adult, or even pre-intellectual stage, an immature stage of awareness. Consciousness is the psychological awareness of the body's content of awareness. When you open your eyes, you automatically see without effort, hear without effort, feel things touching your skin without effort. This bodily awareness resides in the background, in your perceptual subconscious, until you decide to volitionally recognize them with your ego self, i.e. ego self intellectually, psychologically perceive your body's current awareness. Awareness is immobile and acted upon. Consciousness is mobile and it acts. Your consciousness moves. You can direct your focus, and free will is the vehicle to do that. Without free will, you cannot direct your consciousness. You cannot have consciousness. A baby lies on its back. Its mother picks it up and walks around the room, showing how a human in the infant stage with only awareness is mobile, and then an adult with conceptual consciousness and egoic identity and free will can pick up the baby and move around. It's mobile. Awareness only receives stimuli. Consciousness can produce stimuli, produces it by imagining. I've got everything that's in my awareness right now, but I can imagine primary school, jobs I've had in the past, happy memories, sad memories. I can visualize fantastic science fiction scenery that I've never seen before. That's a recreation out of Star Wars and Warhammer 40k. I can fit that into my mind, and I can create new awareness. I can produce new stimuli for my ego self to absorb and sense and see and experience. But awareness itself can't move. It only presents what is being presented to it. But consciousness can move within that current state of perceptual awareness, but then you've got the whole mental side as well. So there's only a very limited amount that's in my mental consciousness or my awareness right now. But as I said, with an act of will, I can send a free will command to my consciousness. Hey, go into my subconscious and think of things to say that explain how consciousness can move. Go backwards in time, forwards in time, visualization and imagining and predictions, remembering the past. Awareness is the passenger, consciousness the driver. Awareness can't move by itself. It has to be moved. So my awareness right now is just of this. To move my awareness, I have to enact a will of consciousness, and I have to move around. Now my awareness is changing. I can see this side of the wall. I can see in different areas now, but that's awareness didn't do that. Consciousness did. My deliberate focus, my deliberate decision to move and stand up and change what I'm seeing. So all I was really changing was what I'm perceiving. So my visual perception, changing my awareness. I could stand in front of the air conditioner and can feel air coming on my skin. So I change the stimuli. Awareness just receives the stimuli, but consciousness can analyze it and recognize it, identify, judge, evaluate, but can also produce new stimuli via sending commands to the body to move the body through this physical space, or it can move in the mental space as well. It's got consciousness has two different planes of existence. At this point, perhaps there's still more, but that it can move through. Awareness is a determined passive receiver. It doesn't need to do anything to receive, just exist. Consciousness acts as a volitional active integrator. It adds data to its repository or ignores based on volitional value judgments. Awareness can only register, where consciousness can ignore. Awareness cannot attribute value significance, but consciousness can. If you are getting a ton of value out of this video, try sending it to someone who you think really isn't that interested in the nature of reality or doesn't give a shit about anything really. You send them to this, out of a conscious free will act, they can ignore this. They can say, I don't want to watch that, I'm not interested. But they can't ignore the fact that it came into their awareness. There was a message, or you told them about it. They can't ignore that. Well, it came into my awareness, but they can consciously choose to ignore actually watching the video. So awareness cannot attribute value significance. It just says, I'm on fire, ow. Consciousness says, that's bad, I gotta put that out. That's where meaning comes from. Consciousness is the aspect of an entity which can identify things and identify with, the ego identifying with particular things, such as integrity, honesty, and justice, or with humility, arrogance, and criminality. The ego can identify with virtues or vices, or completely irrelevant things like, I don't know, green lip balm over yellow lip balm. It's the identification faculty of humans. Awareness can associate, not conceptualize. When training a dog, you'll find some videos where dogs can be trained to have a whole stack of different toys, and the owner will say, get the fireman. The dog runs in and there's 70, 100 different toys there, and it'll grab the fireman. It's created an association with that sound, fireman, and this particular toy which looks like a fireman. But there is no conceptual identification or integration, true recognition that this is a fireman. You show it a picture of a fireman on a piece of paper, it can't see the similarities between the toy fireman and the drawing of the fireman on a piece of paper, or a real fireman standing there in front of it, or a different type of toy, not a stuffed toy but a little plastic fireman toy, or a photo of a fireman where even a child can recognize, oh, fireman, 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 because they're a conceptually intelligent entity. Whereas animals are not. They don't have that type of intelligence or consciousness. They're not non-conceptual. They can create associations, but they can't conceptualize like that. Awareness is physiological. Consciousness is psychological. There is so much that is inside your current awareness right now. You don't have any perceptual awareness of anything outside your sensory apparatus. I can only see so far. I can only hear a particular range and so far. I can only feel what is coming in contact with my skin. I don't know what's happening in the room next to me. I can't see into that room. I can't hear into that room. I can't feel. So you've only got an awareness bubble as far as the range of your sensory apparatuses allow you to sense, receive information from. And so you can only be conscious of a small section of that at any one time because there's just too much information. Far too much information. Your consciousness exists in and as the point of present focus of what you're perceptually aware of via your senses. Consciousness means you have control over where your awareness is. Pure awareness is dictated by stimuli and determined prioritization. Consciousness means you have free will selectivity of your focus to isolate and ignore awareness alert symbols. For instance, you might have an awareness that you're feeling a sensation of needing to go to the toilet. And if you're a baby, just go anywhere, doesn't matter. That's awareness with what I'm calling proto-agency, self-initiated action, but not self-directed free will action. Because for there to be free will, you need to have consciousness of a choice of alternatives and at least an implicit understanding of consequences. So when you're older and you're conscious, you can ignore that particular sensation, that awareness, that unit of awareness, and you can say, well, I'm not going to go to the toilet yet, I'm watching this video. I'm in the classroom, I'm doing whatever I'm doing. And you do that via an act of free will. It's funny when people say we haven't got any free will. It's like, well, you're just saying you're the baby then. You're just going to shit your pants anytime you need to go to the toilet. You've got no control over your bladder or your bowels. It's quite funny, actually. That's the power of consciousness and free will. You can control when and where you go to the toilet. Awareness cannot be directed. It's like an unmoving field that just receives information. Consciousness can be self-directed or environmentally directed. Whenever that happens in a room you're sitting in, you hear some loud clank, boom, your attention just gets ripped over because there's going to be some kind of neural pathways, brain programming, instinctual conditioning inside of our nervous system that says when there's loud noises, they could represent danger. You need to flick your attention over really quickly. But you can notice sometimes you don't always have to do that. If you're really focused on work and then you hear some loud noise and you can recognize it for what it is, it's just, the waitress has just dropped a coffee cup. And it's because you've heard it so many times, you recognize it, and so you know it's not a real alert symbol. You don't need to flick over to see if it's something coming to attack you, if the building's exploding. But if it's a sound you've never heard, or you're just in the wrong type of state, you're already a little bit fired up, boom, your consciousness has been environmentally directed. But you decide how long you're going to look at the waiter who's just tipped over the vase on the ground. You can go, okay, I'm done, I'm looking back over here now. So consciousness can be self-directed by your own free will or environmentally directed. So with environmental direction, that's bottom-up, stimulus-driven, whereas conscious free will is top-down, conscious intervention or direction. Two different, one is coming from the bottom-up of stimulus, reaction, response, perception, awareness. Consciousness is pulled over, and the other one is top down. I think a thought, I want to look to my left. I'm thinking I want to do it in 3, 2, 1. I move to the left. See, it's top down from the mind down, or if I'm here and then, whoa, I pull over. That's bottom up. That dual control explains why consciousness can feel tugged between two poles. You say you want to work, you're going to sit down, start writing your notes, doing your work, and then you've got a sensation of hunger. So there's a bottom-up stimulus competing with a top-down command. So do I do my work now or do I get the food? And then you make a decision. I'll get the food now and then I'll come back. Or no, I'll work for 10 more minutes, then I'll take my break. Awareness is the receptive field and consciousness is the active lens that can be directed within it. Awareness is the passive, non-volitional field. It happens automatically, and I know some of this is repetitive, but I think it's really good to get the message across because it's a pretty complex thing I'm trying to make simple, and repetition helps. I know it definitely helps me. It happens automatically as long as you're awake and your nervous system is functioning normally. Awareness is omnidirectional and non-selective, a background registration of all sensory inputs. It's preconceptual and non-judgmental. You're not yet distinguishing or prioritizing. You can't choose not to be aware in this sense, except for sleep, etc. Awareness equals the field of potential conscious experience, what can be noticed, what can be attended. This is like the mind's ambient light. It illuminates everything, but it doesn't choose where to shine more brightly. Where consciousness is like that spotlight. You've got this dim light, and then you can direct your spotlight and zoom in on a particular thing. Consciousness is your current frame of focus, like a camera focusing on a subject which has the background blurred out. Imagine that. You're pointing your camera around and you've got your friend in frame, and then everything else is blurry on the background. And they are in focus. That's where the consciousness is. But then you could click your finger on the background mountain or building, and then that comes into focus, and then your friend goes into blurry awareness. Consciousness is the focused frame within your awareness. Awareness is the general field, consciousness the narrow beam. So as I said earlier, consciousness is within awareness but can also transcend it by going to the mental plane and moving in the past, into the future, imagining, reasoning, and that's directed by desire. Awareness provides the raw experiential field. Consciousness provides a directed organization of that field. Awareness receives the world, consciousness works with it. Consciousness is normative, awareness isn't. Awareness cannot identify, only present data. It just registers what is, not what it is. Just as a child, it sees a tree. Tree, but it doesn't know that it's a tree, it's that, it. What is it? Doesn't know yet, doesn't understand. Awareness is metaphysical, consciousness is ontological. Metaphysical as in existing just is, nothing else needs to be done. Ontological as in what is the nature of existence? What is this thing that I'm observing? Oh yeah, it's a tree, a gum tree, it's a specific type of tree. Consciousness as normative, I mean there is judgment, there is value. Good or bad, right or wrong, useful, impractical, true, false, etc. Judging. Awareness supplies existential data. Consciousness supplies ontological significance. Awareness shows what exists. Consciousness decides what to do about it. I'm hungry. There's a banana tree. I will get the banana and I will eat it. Can only do that at the conscious level. At the aware level, there's just seeing the banana tree as a baby, feeling hungry and crying, but not knowing that if you grab the banana and eat it, that hunger pain will go away. Awareness is the metaphysical field of experience. It receives reality. Consciousness is the ontological and normative faculty. It judges and classifies reality. Awareness presents facts, hot, cold, bright, dark. Consciousness interprets those facts. Move closer to the fire because I'm cold, and not too close because that'll burn me. Step back, I'm too hot right now. Create, destroy. Oh, there's a threat coming. A tiger coming to get me. Saber-toothed tiger. Destroy it, kill it, stop it. Or create, I need shelter to live in. I need to organize an apartment. Either start building or get on Airbnb and create a life that you want to live. Awareness registers reality. Consciousness assigns meaning to reality. Meaning exists in the domain of consciousness, not awareness. Consciousness is judgmental by its nature. That's the entire point of it. That's why it exists. It asks, what does this awareness unit, as in a specific point of awareness, whether it's, oh, it's too hot, it's too cold, I'm in pain, I feel good, that thing's coming toward me, that specific awareness unit, consciousness thinks, what should I do about that? What do I need to think in relationship to this particular unit of awareness, sensory perception? What do I need to do in response? Because it understands I am a something in a world of something else's. There is me and there is other. Consciousness is your ego's filter. It is the bouncer at the door to your mind. It allows or prevents entry, accepts or rejects information as true or false, believable or laughable, valuable or worthless. If your consciousness is not judging, then your consciousness is worthless, just like a stack of $1 trillion Zimbabwe dollars. Worthless. Zimbabwe went through a huge inflationary period, I think it was in the early 2000s, perhaps the 90s, where $1 trillion Zimbabwe dollars might be worth 30 cents or something. A whole stack of something, but it's good for nothing. If you're not judging with your consciousness is useless. Non-judgmental consciousness isn't a conscious state. It's a hypnagogic trance. It's a non-functioning consciousness. Awake but not alert. Watching but not knowing. There can be integration but without evaluation. Oh, the news just said this, I need to do that. They said, what won't get me banned? There's this war happening and it's all true. So someone who is not being judgmental, who accepts anything from particular sources, authority, without judgment, doesn't filter. They don't check, they don't understand, they don't clarify. They just go, oh, accept, yep, and they integrate. There's still integration, but their mind is full of junk, just useless junk. It's like identifying empty beer bottles and chewing gum on the street and saying, yep, that's useful, and then stocking your whole house up with all that. It's crap. You need to judge what is valuable to bring into my home and what is not. A nice desk to rest my laptop on. I need a good TV, a good lighting system, a hot stove, a frying pan. I need useful things in my house, not a pile of newspapers that homeless people have slept on. Like, you need to have judgment of what is useful and what is not. But so often, people go into this hypnotic trance. How often do you hear that judgment is bad? Which is a judgment in of itself. A contradictory, irrational judgment to judge that judgment is something you should refrain from. It's completely senseless. The purpose of consciousness is to judge what's good and then act to achieve it. Without judgment, consciousness collapses into passive awareness. Awake but unknowing, existing without purpose. So that's part one of the series explaining what consciousness is from an objective model. What I'm also aiming to do is be even more objective than objectivism itself. So stay tuned to the series. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.